So I thought that while we're still in a bit of a low period for Dokkan, we can continue to talk about things that other people are talking about. And in this case, we have Platy saying, here's a hot take. I have over 150 awakened LRs in my box. They don't feel special anymore. Year 10 should have introduced a new rarity. And before I give my opinion, I just want to ask, how do you feel about that? Do you want a new rarity for Dokkan? Are you in a position where Carnivals just aren't doing it for you anymore? Base LRs aren't doing it for you anymore. And maybe you thought that something like Vegito, who is so dominant, should be considered like a super LR or something like that. Like, what is your opinion? Do you think this would be worse for the game? Hype? Obviously the team got more budget. It just feels like in terms of what they're willing to give us and what they're willing to make in these down periods, it seems like the Dokkan team got more budget, and because of that, maybe a new LR rarity does make sense, right? So yeah, what is your opinion? But here is mine. First of all, I'm just gonna read what some people are saying, right? We got hell no, just gonna link this here. I'll defend it. There's no better time to introduce one. Now it'll likely never happen unless they want to take a risk during the 15 year. And I mean, the 15 years pretty far away, 5 years away in Dokkan terms. Who even knows if the game's still here? Certainly it should be. Hopefully by then we've seen Moro or something, but certainly far away. New rarity only for anniversary and GDC units would be cool, and not to be released every 2 months. Someone's, yep. And new rarity should be called Legends, so we could have Dragon Ball characters who are legends. Pretty good. And don't see the point. And after that, yeah, I'm not really seeing anything that, yeah, Carnivals aren't that far ago. So yeah, let's just stop it there. We'll go over to, remember what happened when Carnival LRs were introduced. I wasn't here for this, but apparently it was nightmarish. Apparently motherfuckers was wilding. They were spazzing because of Carnivals, which is very funny because in my personal experience, it seems like Carnivals aren't that hard to get, but I also just save a lot. I know people in Dokkan, people in Gacha in general have a hard time saving, so I'm not gonna, belabor the point and, belittle anyone being like, oh my god, how could you not save? Like, it is what it is. An overreaction, like every time the game tries literally anything different, followed by it being completely normalized and expected now. I personally wouldn't care either way, but I feel if it would eventually become normalized expected, and that takes away the entire point of it being introduced in the first place, it would need to be super scarce to feel special, but I feel like it'd just become DFE LRs 2.0. It also just messed the shit out of celebrations. Imagine Fusion just dropping as a new rarity that drops twice a year, and I would imagine they would have worse rates like in Legends with Ultras. It would generally be so frustrating for players, I think. And that is... yeah. Okay. And that is fair, because I was actually going to bring this up, which is the Ultra rarity in Legends, right? Legends has this rarity where the characters don't get, like, legendary finishes, but instead their animation quality is super, super high, typically, just across the board. And the effects they have are game defining. At Legends, I don't want to say at Legends worse, but at Legends, at the worst case scenario of the Ultra meta is there's one Ultra and you see them every single time. They're just every single time, alongside them being really, really rare. And the other side of that coin, though, is that they typically have such strong abilities that they last a really long time as well. So Majin Vegeta, for example, is a great example of this, right? I'm seeing people say Majin Vegeta is still like the third best character in the game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool if you're a Majin Vegeta fan, which I am. I hope this character gets a really, really, really bomb, Dokkan LR at some point. Not a shitty animations LR, not a free-to-play LR, not a TUR who has good animations but is from the Trunks moment. But an actual Majin Vegeta with good animations would be hard as fuck, right? The thing about that is, though, is that, people don't want to see that for a while. When I started playing Legends, I don't really keep up with Legends in terms of playing it, but I do keep up with the content side of it. Kid Buu was really, really strong. When I was playing the most every day, I had Ultra Instinct Sign Goku, who was really, really strong. And the difference in how it feels to be using a regular like LR or Sparking, I guess, like Legends Limited, and a Ultra Instinct Sign Goku at his peak is crazy. This card, it felt like I was completely carried by the game. Didn't even have him at like 14 stars or anything. I don't wail in gacha, I say it all the time. I don't think Gotcha's worth whaling in unless you're I dare not even say. You know, I dare not even say. I don't want to insult anyone, but it's crazy. It's crazy. You have to be super financially stable to be doing that shit. So yeah, it just felt like the character, even at 3 stars or whatever it was just playing the game for me, right? It just felt like, you know, when I watched Golden Frieza and Super Janemba dropped, they were just playing the game, right? So yeah, it's a risk. And then we have Minato at last saying, Dokkan players, when ZLR Rarity is introduced as a 5th banner during anniversary, but they don't have any pity, can only be exchanged in 6+ months with a brand new ZLR coin, right? Which is, and the banner is featuring 12 featured units. So like, do Dokkan players think the Rarity, Ultra Rarity and Legend was a good thing? We need it for 50 nanny. Need it, lol type shit, dude. 0.35, let's go. Yeah, you know, just people having fun. Just people having fun, right? Definitely not somewhere we need to go with Dokkan right now. I think Dokkan in its current iteration is striking the balance, which is to say that like there is no reason, like outside of insane, like astronomical, you'd have to get insanely unlucky. You'd have to get unlucky to the point where it's like your bad luck is a type of luck. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to hit a 0. Whatever the fuck percent if you save all of your stones and pull for the strongest units in the game, right? The reason I say this is because at some point it is just numbers, right? And now that we have pity, and now that we have exchanges, and now that we have tickets, and now that we have this and that and this and that, if you save, you essentially can't miss. So now more than ever, if someone, you know, like me says, I wouldn't pull for this seems like ass, you probably shouldn't pull for it. But if you decide to, that's still your choice. But when you miss something else in like 2 months and you're like, wow, I just got shafted, it's like, you didn't get shafted, you chose, you know, you made a choice. Ultimately, we all make our choices. That said, let's look at this character. Okay, yeah, this is a good little comparison here, right? So this is a new LR. This is a new, this is the strongest LR, and let's say that Tao and this Goku make up the TUR. So, can anyone tell me if LR Vegito and LR Kale and Caulifla are similar in power? No, they're not. I'll answer that one for you. I won't waste your time. They're not similar in power at all. They're not even close. It's staggering how much worse this LR is than this LR. In a lot of ways, you could say that this LR deserves to be a, what is the word? An ultra legendary, right? Ultra rare. Can you tell me, because I see this one come up a lot, is Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta similar to this character? Maybe in Festival Battles, but across the board, does Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta get enough stacks to match this guy? Probably not if we've seen the calcs, you know. So I don't want to be an APT Andy, I don't want to be a calc Andy, but if you've seen the calcs, you know that it's still not close. It's impressive, but it's not close. This guy is doing 2 times the damage, 2 times, double dose. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is impressive beyond a measurable doubt. And by comparison, he makes this card look like just a regular LR. If you're honest with yourself, you don't have to be honest with yourself. You know, I'm sometimes dishonest with myself too. You know, I like to say that, you know, Vegito isn't the single, you know, strongest thing responsible for why the dev team is lazy. I say it in the quiet times of my day. So yeah, like, I think you could argue that Super Vegito deserves to be an ultra rare. But is that good for the game? Would we have gotten a ticket allowing you, dear viewer, to get him for free? No. There's no way they would have given a ticket away for an ultra rare Super Vegito, right? They would have just made the most money possible because you need him. The fact that this character is simply just another anniversary unit is a mercy. It is a mercy to you. In the same way that, do we need an Ultra TUR? Because as I sort of ponder Kid Goku, who is one of the strongest characters in the game, actually, one of the rare exceptions, the exception, not the rule for TURs, the exception, not the rule for TURs, one of the exceptional TURs in the game, surprisingly, as a Kid Goku. Does he deserve to be in the same class of character as Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku? This fumble? And if that's the case, does this character deserve to be in the same breathing space as Mercenary Tao, who looks much more like this character than he does like this character? Which is interesting because this guy's from a filler. Not in the series, but he's from a filler banner, essentially, right? Where you don't need to pull on him. He's not major unit, powerhouse, and his celebration isn't going to give you that many stones back, right? So we know that he's not being looked at as like this savior for categories, this strongest thing in the game, but by some stroke of luck, he ends up being an incredibly powerful option. That's kind of interesting because this guy was supposed to be that thing, you know? He's supposed to be one of those elite characters. And to go to that point, actually, I just saw them. Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku, and Vegeta, who fuse into blue Vegeta with a unique animation, probably before the recent anniversary, was probably the best original animation in Dokkan, right? The Vegeta special, like, people are still drawing the Vegito special in fan art. You know what I mean? People are still drawing Goku Black with 2 swords. People are still drawing Vegeta with 2 swords. People are still drawing... I mean, you could argue that our new Vegito having his sword attack look the way it does is because of the groundwork they laid with this character, right? Super swaggy looking. Should he have been an ultra rare release? And he was amazing the day he released. You know, you can't argue that this character wasn't good the day they released because they were packing up Fusion Zamasu. Whether you could actually go into them and get Vegito, different conversation entirely. Were they good against Fusion Zamasu, who was killing 90% of the game? Yes, 100%. They were. Which is very funny. So, would this Vegito Blue, would you know that they were what they were, would they be considered relevant for an ultra rare? Because I'm seeing ultra rare as probably going to be fusions a lot of the time, right? It's probably going to be fusions a lot of the time. We know that. Dokkan loves a fusion. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you could hack it, right? I don't know. I would say probably not, right? Because it just begs the question. And the more we sort of stick on that point, the more you start seeing the holes in, like, and you could argue, I guess, well, if they were an ultra rare, they would have been made better. And it's like, I don't know if that's true. Mostly just because, like, what about this guy? This guy is a major celebration unit, and the holes in his kit showed immediately. This idea that, like, well, if they're come from a major celebration, they'll be better. Like, what about them? They're Carnival. This is Omega and Metal Cooler are probably the main examples of, like, weak Carnivals, I guess. But, like, this is pretty close. This is closer to the weak Carnivals than it is to the strong Carnivals. Not saying they're weak, not saying they're bad, but they're closer to being weak than they are strong, right? They are not an exceptional Carnival. Goku and Frieza are somewhere in that mix where they're sort of like middling, like low middle. Vegeta, Evo Vegeta is in that mix where he's sort of low middling. They're definitely not like scraping the higher ends, right? So it's like, well, if Mercenary Tao can be who he is, and this character can be who he is, and this is a Saiyan Day unit, and our Golden Week unit was ass, then, like, what protection do these characters have, really? That is sort of a precedent that's always been interesting, Dokkan, because the assumption is, well, if it's a major celebration, they'll be strong, but that's really, to me, only been super relevant during Anniversary and Worldwide. If you are an Anniversary unit or a Worldwide unit, you will probably be the meta shakeup. If you're a Golden Week or a Saiyan Day or a Tanabata character, there's no saying that you'll be the strongest thing in the game. Because this is an undoubtedly hype moment. The animations for this character are phenomenal. People are saying that the animations for this character are better than the Carnival Goku we got this year, right? So what are we doing? Is he an Ultra? Knowing what we know about him? It's just interesting. It's just interesting. I think that the more people look for excuses concerning these characters, the more they're like, well, if my favorite character was just a higher rarity, it would have been better. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think Dokkan has shown that enough. I think the reason Carnival LRs don't feel special anymore, Dokkan Fest LRs don't feel special anymore, is because, not because of amount, it's because how many fumbles do we get, right? And I don't mean I don't genuinely mean fumbles. I mean, how many times do we get a Dokkan Fest LR or a Carnival LR, and it's like, well, why didn't you just give them more? Super Saiyan 2 Gohan Carnival LR probably should have been given more. You know, I'm a defender of this character. I say he's pretty good, or at least he was pretty good like the entire time during the Anniversary, right? Like pretty good. But is that like enough? Should he just be pretty good? Probably not, right? He should probably be top 4, top 5, top 6. You know, every single character that released during the Anniversary should have been the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slot, but they weren't. Beast was there, Broly was there, and we see it more and more as like we like dissect that information, right? Like Broly, who was a Carnival, was one of the best characters in the game last year, still one of the best characters in the game this year, and fulfills that feeling of like a Carnival spot. These guys were also in that breath where one of the best characters in the game, arguably the best character in the game for a very small window, one of the best supports ever, and felt like they fulfilled that role, right? I just think that Dokkan doesn't need to add a new rarity. They need to lock the fuck in. If you release a Carnival, if you release a DFE LR, it shouldn't be a question of like the best character in the game, right? They should just be the new standard. And oh, is this on global so it's different? Where is Jiren at? Jiren, where are you? I guess Jiren is, I guess Jiren doesn't want to come out and play. Like he's just missing out areas. Like this character was really strong as well, right? He does feel a bit like a Carnival, but like, does he feel like, I don't know, Super Saiyan 4 Goku from the 10th year anniversary? Probably not, because half of his kit is kind of ass. Like this character doesn't do what you want them to do. I'm not saying that full power Jiren's transformation didn't do big damage to Goku and Frieza, but when I went into this form, I expected him to tank it. You know, for every super attack performed, or rather, for every super attack received, you know, for one turn from the character's entry turn, the whole thing is like tank Goku and Frieza, right? He can see them. He can see their super coming. We already knew it was in slot 1, but he can see their super coming. This character doesn't really tank that shit. And it doesn't feel good when the big payoff animation is just worse than like being in the support role, right? Doesn't feel very Carnival to me. But that's just me, you know. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club, we'll go make it, and peace.